The episode begins 1 year later after Connor Kent and Meg Gann patch up their relationship and restore their promise to get married. In Happy Harbor, Meg Gann and Connor prepare for a trip to hold a traditional Martian wedding ceremony which they will celebrate with Meg Gann's family on Mars. They will return to Earth in 3 months for the civil ceremony. A moment later, Tara, Violet, and Forager Zeta in Cullen Rowe and Harper Rowe later join them for school. The newlywed couple, Lucas Carr and Bethany Lee Carr, follow them. Garfield Logan is the last one to arrive via the Zeta tube while talking to Cassie on the phone. He needs to make sure everything is under control with the Outsiders before he leaves with Meg Gann and Connor. Martian Manhunter appears at the entrance of the bioship to tell them that everything is ready for their journey. They enter the bioship and Gar volunteers to drive. The rest of the heroes watch as the bioship speeds off. Meanwhile, a mysterious blonde-haired girl wearing a ring with an L symbol watches them leave through a binoculars. After a month-long journey, they reach Mars where Meg Gann's sister, Emery Johns welcomes them. Emery is the head scientist of the Zeta Project, a project that will create a Zeta tube to connect Earth and Mars. She then changes her appearance to Megan Wheeler from the Hello, Megan show to make her guests comfortable, but Garfield, who has taken the form of the Mars Beast, expresses his objections so she transforms into Rita Lee instead. Martian Manhunter unloads their baggage from the bioship and Meg Gann permits Bioship to go to the biocavern to join the rest of the bioships. Martian Manhunter tells Emery they need to begin the installation of the Zeta tube. Emery says their parents want to see the couple and offers to send them back to their home, but they refuse. Connor, Meg Gann, and Gar want to explore the city first. On their way, they see Martians who have taken the form of television actors, including the Outsiders. The Martian Outsiders notice their presence and begin crowding around them. Suddenly, they are telepathically attacked by some of the Garans, sending hostile thoughts to their minds. The Garans are not pleased with their presence. As soon as Gar and Connor recover, Meg Gann tells them they need to go directly to their house. As they leave, a Garan wearing the familiar L symbol watches them from a distance. While Meg Gann takes Connor and Gar home to her parents, Jan Moores and Matt Moores, Martian Manhunter, and Emery start the installation of the Zeta tube. Suddenly, Consul General Res Edda arrives to stop them from building the tube. He strongly objects to the Zeta project, especially the influence of Earth on Mars, and believes that this will only make Martians lose their culture. He emphasizes that Meg Gann is an Ocean and insults her for it. But John Johns speaks up for his niece and firmly says how he doesn't regret bringing the Earth's culture to Mars. Emery explains that Queen Jarlia Jax pledges her approval to the project, causing Res to enrage. Res storms out to talk with the Queen about the Zeta project, while Connor talks about how people seem not to like their presence on Mars compared to the last time they visited. Someone with the L symbol ring watches them in the shadows. Suddenly, a group of Garans protests outside their house. They demand the Earthlings leave Mars immediately. Gar transforms into a Maaleaf AK. The Garans mentally attack him, causing him to stumble backward. Meg Gann immediately disperses their thoughts, and the Garans flee. When they turn around to head back inside, they see a giant ethnic insult written on the wall of their house. Meanwhile, the bioship transforms into a liquid and merges with the rest of her species, merging as a large pool of liquid. Inside their house, Meg Gann asks her parents about the reason for the hate they receive from the Garans. Her parents finally tell them that it was all rooted in the passing of King Saturn Jax, who believes in unity and peace among other alien races, including Earth. The king also launched the Mars-Earth communications satellite into space as a symbol of the growing relationship between the two planets. However, the king was assassinated a month ago and the culprit was yet to be named. Since then, the Martian races start throwing hate and blaming each other for it. Queen Jarlia, who assumed the throne, has pulled back the reforms of her late husband, except for the Zeta project. Meg Gann wonders if her brother, M'Comm, is behind this. At the biocavern, the bioship transforms into a liquid and merges with the rest of her species, merging as a large pool of liquid. She later emerges from the pool of liquid and begins to split into two, which creates another bioship. The two playfully chase each other from the cavern and around Mars. Meanwhile, Res storms into the royal palace and immediately attacks the queen with a mind link of 1,000 Garans who demand to stop the Zeta project immediately. At the Zeta project, Meg Gann and the others can feel the mind link attack. While Martian Manhunter informs Superman that the Zeta tube is ready and volunteers to test the Zeta tube himself, Queen Jarlia tries to explain to her people that Earth is not an enemy, but the real threat is Apocalypse. Back to the Zeta project, Meg Gann senses the camouflaged M'Comm hiding in a corner and telepathically attacks him before pinning him to a wall. The Martian guards immediately surround him, preventing him from making another move. As Meg Gann subdues M'Comm, John Johns enters the mind link between Queen Jarlia and the Garans. He vows that Earth will protect them. The Queen then mentions that the Martian Manhunter proves how Earth and Mars can work together in peace. The Garans slowly start to leave, which weakens Ressa's mind link. When John Johns returns, Meg Gan explains that it is safe to test the Zeta tube since McCom has just arrived, giving him no time to tamper with the test. However, as soon as John Johns walks into the Zeta tube, it explodes. When the smoke clears, Connor hurries to find Meg Gan, who says that she cannot feel her uncle's mind touch. Meanwhile, an unknown individual watches the explosion. On the next episode, after the explosion, Meg Gan helps Garfield, who gets trapped under the debris of the Zeta tube. Due to the explosion, they lost communication with the Watchtower and have no way to tell if John Johns survived. The Monsters blame Com for sabotaging the Zeta test, but Meg Gan defends him. Meg Gan knows that Com never made contact with the machine. Emery explains that there is no malfunction with the tube. It was clearly tampered with, causing an explosion. Even with Meg Gan's explanation, the Monsters still decide to take Com away as they are convinced he is responsible. Meg Gan and her parents accompany Com while Gar and Connor stay behind with Emery to investigate. Emery creates a mind link with Queen Jarlia to inform her of the incident. As the psychic information travels fast in Mars, rumors spread among the Martians that the Martian Manhunter has passed away during the incident. Prince Jem Jax arrives to confirm with his mother if the rumors are true. Ress accuses McCom of terrorism. At the Zeta Project, Connor discovers burn marks on the Zeta tube. Just then, Emery finally finds a way to contact the Watchtower. Meanwhile, John Johns arrives just in time to explain to Superman that something happened after he was transported. As they cannot establish contact with Mars, John Johns asks Cyborg to create a boom tube back to Mars, but Cyborg has never been to Mars. It will be difficult for him to pinpoint a safe location. Superman calls Steel to return the Javelin to the Watchtower as their only option. Just as Steel confirms, Emery manages to contact them. John Johns tells them that he is fine. Cyborg begins to pinpoint their location for a boom tube, but the Mars-Earth communications satellite suddenly explodes. Their feed cuts off and Cyborg does not get enough time to locate their signal. Steel appears on the monitor and informs them it will take 2 days for the Javelin to reach the Watchtower. Until then, they cannot assist Connor, Meg Gan, and Gar. In Mars, the Legion of Superheroes member, Phantom Girl observes the explosion from a cave with her fellow Legionnaires, Chameleon Boy and Saturn Girl. They seem to know who caused the explosion and Saturn Girl tells them to observe and stay ready. While Emery, Connor, and Gar try to establish a connection to Earth again, Prince Jem arrives and explains that the explosion might be connected to the case of his father. He hopes to reinvestigate it with the help of John Johns, but now that John Johns is not present, Gar and Connor offer to help the prince. After Prince Jem accepts, he telepathically uploads all the information regarding the late king's case. But the upload threatens Gar, and he immediately transforms into Malifa AK to defend them. Connor convinces him to calm down, and Prince Jem asks to be kept informed of any progress with the investigation. At the prison cell, Meg Gan privately talks to McCom, who hates her for leaving him alone in Mars when she ran away to Earth. Meg Gan knows that McCom is hiding something from her and demands to know everything, but McCom refuses. Meg Gan says she will force him to talk, the hard way, but McCom knows she doesn't force anyone anymore. McCom demands to be set free as the authorities have no evidence to imprison him. Later that day, Meg Gan, Connor, and Gar travel the Sacred River aboard a ship. While Meg Gan and Connor admire the beauty of the Sacred River, Gar seems uninterested as he continues to scroll through pictures of the outsiders on his phone. Gar only gets distracted when a Marfan beast sprays water onto him. He transforms into a Marfan beast and swims in the water with them. Meanwhile, Connor shares the information about the late king's case with Meg Gan. Meg Gan's parents appear with sorceress priestess Cyrus Smith. They suggest the couple focus on their wedding in the meantime. Cyrus Smith will perform the gift of love ritual called the Ma'ayavana and their upcoming wedding in 3 days. At the royal palace, Ress demands the queen to turn down Prince Jem's request to allow Connor, Meg Gan, and Gar's help in the king's case investigation. Queen Jarlia acknowledges the Earthlings' expertise with such things and objects Ress. She believes that the Earthlings can be useful in the investigation, leaving Ress frustrated. Back to the Sacred River, Gar, Connor, and Meg Gan walk along the cavern. Meg Gan tells them she will bring them to Bioship. At a distance behind, Phantom Girl, Chameleon Boy, and Saturn Girl follow them. Suddenly, the ceiling falls on Meg Gan, Connor, and Gar and onto the Legionnaires. Chameleon Boy manages to get Phantom Girl and Saturn Girl away before the debris crushes them. However, Meg Gan senses Saturn Girl's mind touch before they disappear. Before she can follow the psychic signature, the rocks fall on them and they end up buried under the debris. Meg Gan immediately breaks free to investigate, but the psychic link is already gone and Connor does not read anything on infrared either. When Meg Gan sees that Connor bleeds, she suddenly panics, but Connor explains that he is far from the sun, giving him insufficient energy to absorb. He then assures her that he is fine. They then realize that someone wants them gone. At a safe distance, the Legionnaires discuss that the one who caused the cave-in was successful in revealing their presence as Saturn Girl knows that Meg Gan sensed her. The episode ends as Desaad arrives at M'Kam's cavern, bringing a gift from Darkseid for M'Kam's efforts on New Genesis. He reveals that the device is a gene bomb, designed to eliminate all the Garans and Blodens. However, there is a catch. Desaad is unsure of the effects on the mixed-race Martians, but M'Kam doesn't mind it at all. The episode starts off with Garfield Logan's memory during the capture of Cobra. The Outsiders take a selfie with Cobra tied up, which Gar now admires while he is away on Mars. He wants to contact his friends on Earth, but Meg Gan tells him that the communication lines between the two planets will take a while to get fixed. Meg Gan and Connor worry about Gar as he looks like he is not sleeping properly. Gar assures them he is alright. Later, Prince Jem Jax visits the Moors' home as soon as he hears about the incident at the Sacred River. Jem suspects that the incident is connected to his father's case, and Connor agrees that it might be possible. Meg Gan explains to Prince Jem through her mind link that they found twin burn marks in the cavern, which matched the burn marks that caused the Zeta Tube explosion. She adds that she sensed a presence during the incident that she could not identify. The conversation is interrupted when the sorcerer priestess, Syra Smith, arrives. She is surprised by Prince Jem's presence. Meg Gan introduces them to each other, but the prince admits they have met before and quickly asks Connor to check the place in the palace where his father was found in case there is evidence that the authorities might have missed. Meg Gan's father, Matt Moores, respectfully objects. He says that Connor needs to fulfill his duties of building the altar for the wedding and meet Bars the former Green Beetle. Connor suggests Matt meet Bars while he and Gar come with Prince Jem to the palace. He says they will meet them afterward. Matt accepts. Jan Moores then asks Meg Gan to come with her, along with Emery Johns and Syra, to build the canopy. Meg Gan accepts. As they need all transportation, Meg Gan excitedly leads them outside, where she shows them two bioships. Meg Gan explains that the other is Bioship's offspring and suggests Connor take Baby for a ride to the palace with Gar and Prince Jem. Prince Jem leads Connor and Gar to the Grand Hall of the Royal Palace and shows them the place where King Stern was found. Connor begins to investigate and sees something familiar with his microscopic vision, but he cannot get a grip on what it exactly is. After the investigation, Prince Jem offers to help Connor build the altar as a form of gratitude for their assistance on his father's case. On their way to the Crystal Cave, Meg Gan discovers that Bioship is retiring and Baby will transport them back to Earth. Meg Gan explains that Bioship wants to spend the rest of her days on Mars. Although Meg Gan understands, she is saddened by Bioship's decision. Jan comforts her. Meanwhile, Gar is so distracted by the thought of Brian sending them away from Markovia he does not notice that Matt and Barzum are already there. Barzum greets them and apologizes for his actions as Green Beetle back on Earth. Prince Jem consoles him and says he has redeemed himself by saving Earth and Mars from the Reach. On their way, Gar suggests letting Connor absorb energy from the sunlight as they might face danger again, but Connor assures him that it can wait. At the Crystal Cave, Syra guides Meg Gan, Jan, and Emery in building the ceremonial canopy. As they start joining the crystals, Meg Gan asks Syra about how she became a priestess after her relationship with Prince Jem. Syra is surprised and asks Meg Gan if she invaded her mind, but Meg Gan says she only read body language. Syra admits their history, but their love was temporary as she is a Garan and he was the prince. At Hallow Hill, Matt, Connor, Gar, Prince Jem, and Bars start to build the ceremonial altar using molten rocks. Gar, who is in the form of a Ma'alifa AK, starts to hallucinate. Meanwhile, Connor admires Matt's strength and guidance throughout the ritual and asks if Matt did the same when he married Jan. Matt explains Jan was cast aside by her family when she married him, except John Johns, who learned to accept their relationship. Gar, who sees Geoforce rise from the lava, interrupts their conversation and charges at Connor to save him from Geoforce. He ends up knocking Connor unconscious. Gar rushes to bring Connor to the surface to absorb sunlight as Geoforce chases after them. Bars, Matt, and Prince Jem don't understand what's happening but immediately follow Gar as the surface of Mars is dangerous for Connor in his current condition. Meanwhile, at the Crystal Cave, a heated conversation begins between Emery and Meg Gan. Emery accuses Meg Gan of being ashamed of being a Martian, that's why she wants to marry an Earthling. Their anger causes the canopy to collapse. Meg Gan says that Emery knows how tough their childhood was, for both she and Com were bullied for being Ashen. She says that she expects Emery to stand up for her and their brother, but she doesn't. Emery is ashamed and tells her she was only a child back then. Meg Gan figures that their conversation is similar to what she had with Com recently. Jan approaches Meg Gan and tells her that she now understands that her daughter's true form is how she looks as a human and apologizes for not being able to see that sooner. Syra explains that arguments between families prove a strong family bond. She smiles and encourages them to start building the canopy again. On the surface of Mars, Gar tries to find sunlight, but the place is covered in a dust storm. The heavy winds knock Connor to the ground and Gar runs off, promising to find the sun for him. However, Connor's oxygen tank gets pierced by a rock, causing it to rapidly lose oxygen. Gar frantically runs as his hallucination of Geoforce chases him. Inside the tunnels, Prince Jem, Matt, and Bars see Gar heading toward the surface. The bioship emerges from the ground, just in time before Connor completely loses oxygen. They bring Connor inside the ship, while Prince Jem orders them to close the hatch as he finds Gar. Gar panics amidst the sandstorm, telling himself that he failed everyone, including Connor whom he lost like Brian. Geoforce illusion catches up on him and prepares to attack him, but Meg Gan suddenly enters his mind. Meg Gan explains the reason why Gar has been having hallucinations, the psychic damage caused by the mental attack from the enraged Garans a few days ago on the Moore's house. She adds that Gar is afraid of losing another member of his new family, the outsiders like Brian, his mother, Rita, and Wally. She finally convinces Gar to let her heal his mind. Connor wakes up aboard the bioship just as Gar and Prince Jem enter the hatch. Gar runs into Superboy and embraces him. He apologizes and explains that Meg Gan healed his mind. However, when they meet Meg Gan later that day, Meg Gan says that she did not do it and admits feeling bad she wasn't able to sense that Gar was suffering. She checks Gar's mind and determines that the psychic traces of whoever helped him are the same as the mind touch she felt at the cave incident. At Hollow Hill, Chameleon Boy, in the form of Ma'alif AK, meets Saturn Girl and Phantom Girl. Saturn Girl praises him for distracting the others to allow her to save Gar. Phantom Girl asks why Saturn Girl decided to intervene, which she answers by saying that it is what they are there for. Besides, Gar needs help. At the Moore's home, Gar bids farewell to Bioship and thanks her for her service to the heroes. He also officially welcomes Baby as part of their team. In the Ma'ayavana Ma'ak, a church for wedding ceremonies, Meg Gan and Connor celebrate the completion of the ceremonial canopy and altar with a kiss. On the next episode, at the Moore's home, Meg Gan, Connor, and Gar express their thanks and goodbyes to Bioship before she stays permanently on Mars. Although saddened by Bioship's retirement, Baby assures them she will take care of their family now. Meanwhile, Com, in camouflage, sneaks into the palace and places the gene bomb directly underneath the balcony, where Prince Jem will celebrate his birthday party. He pushes the timer and leaves, unaware that someone is watching him. When he returns to the cavern, Meg Gan greets him. She explains that she wants to apologize for what happened after she left and tries to convince M'Com to reunite with their family. M'Com, who wants to be addressed as Ma'alif AK, refuses and wishes her luck for her wedding as she leaves. At the balcony, the Legionnaires, Chameleon Boy, Saturn Girl, and Phantom Girl watch Connor, Gar, and Prince Jem from a distance before leaving as Meg Gan arrives. Prince Jem has invited them to his birthday party. Meg Gan creates a mind link with Gar and Connor to check every lead they have about the king's case. They start by going through everyone who entered the palace the night of the murder and Gar manages to find a lead on the evidence. 7 servants entered the palace, but only 6 left. They dig further into the list of servants and find a suspect. Through Ro Kar's memory, they see an image of the suspect beside a servant named Kar Mang. Meg Gan suggests they talk to him to get his statement on the case. They walk into the Ashen village and halt outside Kar's doorstep. Kar feels threatened at first but Meg Gan assures him that he is not a suspect. He then explains what he knows and says the servant is not an Ashen but a Garan in disguise. He adds that he did not reveal the truth since the Garans would not believe that a Garan has caused the king's demise and for his safety as well. Connor, Meg Gan, and Gar arrive at the royal arena for Prince Jem's birthday party and to inform him of the new lead they gathered. Prince Jem meets them, knowing the Earthlings bear news about his father's case. Meg Gan creates a mind link to show all the information they have about the suspect. Prince Jem figures something and asks for a moment to absorb the information and leaves. Connor notices the magical light show and figures that the evidence he found at the crime scene is a residue of magic. Meg Gan figures out who the culprit is and they hurry to find Prince Jem. As they look for the prince, Meg Gan explains that King Stern is strongly against Prince Jem and Syra's love, as he believes that the Bloodens should remain superior, which led Syra to bring an end to the king's life. They find Prince Jem and Syra discussing the same matter. Syra becomes too emotional that she loses control of her powers. Prince Jem tries to convince her to stop, or she might end up slaying him as well. She admits that she still loves the prince and finally contains her powers, falling into Prince Jem's arms. She opens her mind and explains that she never meant harm toward the king. She says she only disguised herself as an Ashen to convince the king to let her marry Prince Jem, but the king refused. Due to being too emotional, she activated her powers accidentally and ended up committing manslaughter. In a panic, she escaped through the sewers and pledged herself as a sorcerer priestess to live a celibate and solitary life. Meg Gan confirms that Syra is telling the truth, and the royal guards take her away to prison. Amidst the prince's birthday celebration, the citizens quickly learn of the arrest of Syra, but Reseda refuses to believe it until Ro confirms Syra's confession. Res then makes a public announcement that the caste system exists for a reason, believing that it preserves order in their kingdom. Prince Jem steps in and objects to Res. He says that this Martian way was the reason for most of the problems in Mars and it is time to make a change. Queen Jarlia agrees, but she requests to set aside the arguments about it and celebrate her son's birthday first. Meanwhile, Superman and John Johns arrive in a javelin and ask Emery to bring them to Connor, Meg Gan, and Gar. While everyone is occupied with the party, the unknown observer sneaks underneath the royal balcony in an invisible sphere. The Legionnaires, hiding in the shadows, sense his presence when Phantom Girl's time scanner goes off. The Legionnaires start moving as the observer places a metal box on the bomb and leaves. On top of the bomb room, Superboy hears the sound of the metal box being placed on top of the bomb. Using his X-ray vision, he finds someone underneath them, and Meg Gan senses the same mind touch from the cave-in. Connor tears open the floor and dives down after the observer disappears. He reveals the device and confirms it to be an apocalyptic bomb set to detonate in minutes. With his microscopic vision, Connor discovers it is a virus. Gar licks the bomb and says he can taste M'Com. Meg Gan figures that M'Com plans to eliminate the Garans and the Bloodens. Connor senses a lava flow below them and orders Meg Gan and Gar to leave as he begins punching the ground to detonate the bomb inside the lava flow. Meg Gan immediately calls for the evacuation of the whole arena. Connor starts to bleed from the impact of his punches, but he manages to break through the ground. He falls into the lava with the bomb, while Meg Gan's wedding ring falls out of his pocket and melts into the lava. With his remaining strength, he crushes the bomb and releases the virus into the lava. The virus melts in the lava, but the bomb explodes. Meg Gan and Gar rush toward the explosion and Meg Gan panics when she cannot feel Connor's mind touch. Gar notices Connor's shadow on the rocks. John Johns and Superman arrive, but Superman immediately feels weakened and informs them that he can sense kryptonite in the air. John Johns asks them to leave immediately for safety. At the arena, Meg Gan embraces Emery as she mourns her loss of Connor. Gar explains that Connor was weak since he cannot absorb enough energy from the sun, and the kryptonite in the bomb might be the reason why Connor did not survive the explosion. Meg Gan tries to reach out to Connor telepathically, to no avail, despite her pleas. The episode ends as Meg Gan breaks into tears, embracing her sister for comfort. The episode starts off as Artemis Croc learns about the passing of another friend, Connor Kent. Artemis now leads a good life as a university professor and brings down criminals at night as Tigress, but the news of Connor's passing has taken away her focus on her life. She visits the Watchtower hologram memorials of her ex-lover, Wally West, beside Connor. At the Harper house, Artemis stares at the photo of the original team Will Harper placed on the wall. She tries hard to control her emotions and Will comforts her. Besides the team is the image of Will, and his daughter Lien, with Lien's mother and her sister, Jade and Gwyn. She suddenly reminisces about the time when she and her sister were trained by their father, Lawrence Croc. Bothered by all the recent happenings, Artemis talks to her mother, Paula Croc, about her regrets of not pushing herself harder to bring back Jade. She later learns that Paula actually knows Jade's whereabouts. Artemis goes to the university library. A mysterious individual follows her from her house all the way to the library. The mysterious individual creeps behind Artemis inside the library, when suddenly, Arsenal and Arrowhead attack, revealing the individual to be a masked woman. Arsenal manages to knock her down with an electroshock from his robotic arm. The woman awakens and finds herself before Tigress, Arsenal, and Arrowhead. Artemis confronts the woman about tailing her from her house, but the woman claims she did not intend to attack as she thought Arsenal and Arrowhead are part of the League of Shadows. She introduces herself as Onyx Adams, a former Shadow, and explains that she came to ask for help. She warns them that Cassandra Savage, Vandal Savage's daughter, plans to pretend that she has defected from the League of Shadows, but she only intends to become a spy. As soon as she finishes explaining, Cassandra appears with scars on her face and an amputated arm. Cassandra explains that Onyx was sent by the Shadows to sabotage her and adds that her loyalty to Savage was stained when her sister passed away at Savage's hands. When she tried to escape, she paid a price that cost her face and arm. Onyx insists that Cassandra is just lying. Unsure of who to trust, Artemis decides to bring both of them to the vault. Meanwhile, Jade and Gwyn, aka Cheshire, goes to Infinity Island to end the bounty placed on her head by the League of Shadows. Talia al Ghul appears with her son, Damien, and the red-hooded ninja. Talia senses that Cheshire is afraid of something, that's why she came. Cheshire suddenly receives a message and immediately leaves the island. Sensei shouts at her to come back when she is ready to live or to end her life. The scene shifts to the childhood memories of Jade and Artemis when Jade finally left their house. Artemis tried to keep Jade from going, but Jade refused. Jade has made up her mind. Although she can take Artemis with her, she believes Artemis will only slow her down. She told Artemis that every girl in their family is on their own before closing the door to leave. Tigress drives a car with Arrowette to transport Cassandra, while Will drives the other SUV with Arsenal to transport Onyx. On their way to the vault, a tranquilizer dart suddenly shoots at Cassandra from the truck in front of them. Arrowette intercepts the tranquilizer, who gets knocked unconscious instead of Cassandra. The truck halts and blocks the way. A group of shadows emerges from the truck. Tigress, Arsenal, and Will step out of the cars to fight the shadows, leaving Cassandra and Onyx restrained inside the vehicles with handcuffs. They take cover as the shadows shower them with bullets. After Arsenal destroys the truck with a missile from his robotic arm, a sniper on top of a building shoots a tranquilizer dart at them. Arsenal deals with the sniper while Will fights a shadow with a pen. Artemis takes care of the others, but a shadow catches her off guard from behind. Cassandra, who has freed herself from the car, saves Artemis. Meanwhile, Arsenal and Will get pinned down by gunfire, but Onyx takes the last shadow down. They finally reach the vault and Onyx and Cassandra are placed inside separate interrogation rooms. Cassandra claims that the attack was for her as revenge against the shadows for her betrayal, while Onyx claims that it was only a setup to make them believe that Cassandra was telling the truth. Meanwhile, Terra, Orphan, and Spoiler arrive to meet up with Tigress, Arsenal, Red Arrow, and Arrowette and observe Onyx and Cassandra to determine if either is lying. Orphan suggests not trusting either of them, and Red Arrow agrees. But Tigress says that there is a chance that they both are lying, but there is also a chance that they are both telling the truth and they need to protect both from the shadows. She believes anyone is worthy of redemption. In Artemis' memory, her father, Lawrence, discovers that Jade ran away, but he has no intention of finding her. Instead, he focused on training Artemis. Jade rode a bus leaving the city. Back to the present time, Jade arrives at the Harper house, worrying that something happened to her daughter, Lien. Paula is surprised but says she did not contact Jade and assures her Lien is upstairs and is completely fine. Artemis enters the room and reveals she was the one who contacted Jade. On the next episode, the scene shifts to Artemis' childhood memory when Jade came back home to find Artemis with a black eye and a broken arm. Artemis asked Jade why she returned. In the present time, Jade asks the same thing and Artemis explains that there are two defectors from the League of Shadows and they need her help to figure out who is telling the truth. Jade refuses. When she is about to leave, Artemis tells her that the shadows found out where she lives, and apparently, where Jade's daughter also lives. Jade finally agrees to help. Tigress returns to the vault and observes while Looker telepathically reads Onyx and Cassandra's minds. Afterward, Looker informs Tigress that she did not find anything suspicious and neither seems to be lying. However, Orphan tells her that the shadows are trained to manipulate psychic readings to confuse their enemies. Since Miss Martian is not there, they have no way to be sure. Artemis once again recalls when Jade returned to ask for food. However, Lawrence heard them and mocked Jade for seeking their help when she had run away. Before leaving, Jade said they were all mad as hatters, a secret message that Artemis can only understand. In a park, Artemis waits for Jade when a man with a dog approaches her. Turns out it was Jason Bard, her boyfriend, with his dog, Holly. When they are about to kiss, Jade arrives and interrupts. Artemis introduces Jason and Holly to Jade. Jason bids farewell and Artemis and Jade sit to talk about the shadows. Jade acknowledges seeing Artemis happy after all that happened. She then informs Artemis that all her sources say the same information. Cassandra is being hunted by the entire League of Shadows, but nobody has ever heard of Onyx Adams. She warns her the Onyx might be dangerous and asks to interrogate the defectors personally. On a secret rooftop, the young Artemis met Jade to give her food. Jade gave her a book titled Dumb Luck, which she happily accepted. Jade also promised to return to give Artemis enough money to buy food for their fridge before Lawrence returns home. At the vault, Tigress arrives to relieve Spoiler from her guard duty, but Orphan refuses to leave her post. Spoiler informs Tigress that both the defectors did not say anything during the shift before leaving. Tigress asks Orphan to leave, but she still refuses. Tigress gives up but asks Orphan to be quiet about her letting Cheshire in, which she does seconds later. Orphan immediately draws her sword to fight, but Tigress stops her and explains that Cheshire is there to help them with Cassandra and Onyx. Orphan finally listens. At the premiere building, Garfield Logan, who still mourns the loss of Connor Kent, goes downstairs to watch the news. In a Todd Donner report, King Brian Markov announces the invitation of Markovia to the metahumans, which causes the Markovian people to flee from their country and seek refuge in Vlatava. Donner explains Queen Perdita Vladek's stand on this matter, but Gar shuts down the TV and heads upstairs. Back in the vault, Cheshire stands before Onyx and demands to know more about her. Onyx explains that she was recruited at an early age to the Shadows by Sensei, who promised to train her to be the better version of herself at Infinity Island. She enjoyed her time at Infinity Island where she felt the Shadows as her own family, but things changed when Deathstroke and Lady Shiva replaced Ra's al Ghul and Sensei. Cheshire doubts that Onyx is telling the truth as she can tell that Onyx is carefully constructing her answers. Onyx defends herself and says that she was a shadow ever since she was 11, and their ways are engraved in her by now, but she wants to learn how to be a normal human being again. Cheshire goes to the other room to interrogate Cassandra, who claims to have turned her back on Vandal Savage when she learned that her mother was actually alive and had a new family. Cassandra says she also witnessed how Savage ended the life of her sister, Olympia, who raised her like her own mother. And when she figured out that Savage had stolen her childhood, she revolted and started to look for Artemis. She believes that Artemis can understand what she is going through since Artemis is Sportsmaster's child. Cheshire goes to the main room to inform Artemis that both are either sincere or very good at lying. She suggests finishing them both to solve the problem. Tigress refuses. Suddenly, Orphan draws her sword. They are under attack. Someone blocks the surveillance camera in Cassandra's room. Cheshire and Tigress prepare for a fight as well. Black Spider appears and shoots his web to disarm them. Tigress rushes to free Onyx for backup while Orphan and Tigress distract Black Spider. Tigress instructs Onyx to help her and prove she is not the mole. They break into Cassandra's room where they find Rictus attacking Cassandra. They try to subdue Rictus, but he is stronger than any of them. In the main room, Cheshire and Orphan continue to fight Black Spider, who just easily disarms them with his web shooters. Cheshire manages to hurt him with a bomb connected to a gun. As the fight continues, Black Spider grabs Cassandra from the other room and tosses her near the Zeta tube. As the rest team up to fight Rictus, Lady Shiva suddenly emerges from behind Orphan and knocks her out. Lady Shiva takes Orphan as a hostage and orders Artemis to bring Cassandra to Santa Prisca within 24 hours if they want to see Orphan alive again. Shade appears and takes the Shadows away with Orphan. Cheshire looks surprised to see her old comrade, Shade. Cassandra suggests surrendering herself to Lady Shiva to save Orphan, and Onyx volunteers to come to back up Tigress as she still doesn't trust Cassandra. Cheshire objects and suggests they ask the team for some help. She explains that Shiva was lying. She recognizes Orphan as Shiva's daughter, Cassandra Wu-san, by the scar on her neck and believes that Shiva will not finish off her own daughter. Despite her protests, Cassandra Savage and Onyx decide to go with Tigress to Santa Prisca while she leaves. Back to a childhood memory, Artemis waits for Jade on the rooftop, reading the book Jade gave her on their last meeting. Hours passed by, but Jade did not show up. Lawrence, who discovered that Artemis gave all their food to Jade, found her and put her through rough training as a punishment. The next morning, Halo arrives at the vault for her guard duty shift. She finds no one in the room and only sees the remains of the fight between the heroes and the Shadows. The episode ends as Tigress, Onyx, and Cassandra head out to Santa Prisca aboard Supercycle to rescue Orphan.